He's a Nigerian influencer known for posting photos and videos of an expensive lifestyle on Instagram.
From Nigeria to Dubai, from obscurity to millions of followers, from dirt poor to billionaire, and from penthouse to prison. This is the story of how Ramon Abbas became Hushpuppi, the notorious pioneer, legend, and hero of the Yahoo Boys. According to the FBI, Nigeria is the third worst country globally when it comes to the prevalence of cybercrime perpetuators. You'll hear many terms thrown around when discussing Nigeria in particular, the most common perhaps being the Nigerian prince scam, but also commonly referring to them as the 419, pointing to the Nigerian Criminal Code Chapter 38, obtaining property by false pretenses, cheating. Originally, this code applied to fax, phone, and letter scams. By the 90s, however, the internet arrived and changed the landscape entirely. Internet cafes started to appear in even the poorest of neighborhoods, and while this spawned opportunity for all, it also spawned the Yahoo Boys, a term popularized due to it being the free email and chat service that all Nigerian people would use from the late 90s into the early 2000s. The scams in those early days followed mostly in the footsteps of the offline variant. You've won a lottery, send us money to claim it. These are referred to as AFF, Advanced Fee Fraud, or AFS, Advanced Fee Scams. They promised a sizable amount of money or a prize while requiring a small fee to unlock. Due to the fee being so low and the potential payoff being so high, they were always incredibly successful and still are to this day. As with any other industry though, it evolved over time, and not because there were too few victims, but because of the cat and mouse game being played with law enforcement. When one method became too popular among the Yahoo Boys, this was the method that was then being more closely monitored, increasing the risk of being caught. They never really needed to make them any more complex because you can still see the first ever 419 mail scams still working today over 40 years later. Following this initial surge of AFFs, some innovators moved on to what's referred to as the come and marry scams. Honey, your sparkle always lights up my life. Oh, I love you, darling. Me too. I can't wait to hold you in my arms. But there's a problem. What is it, honey? I urgently need a small amount of money to hasten the process of my traveling documents and visa. How much do you need, darling? These scams could go on for days, weeks, months, or even years, with Yahoo Boys having rosters of people they would talk to for as long as it takes to get the mark to pay up. As time went on, the scam got more popular. The next method would of course sprout up. Eventually, we come to the business email compromise, or BEC for short. This is almost certainly the single most lucrative scam from the region, and aside from cryptocurrency scams of recent years, has netted some of the largest single paydays in history. The scam takes on many forms, the most devastating of which involving hacking into the account of employees, usually done by a third party, and then monitoring of said accounts for as long as it takes to find invoices or financial information that they then exploit using social engineering. An example would be finding an accounts manager through social media and then sending their details over to your hacker friends. Once they gain access, however they do it, you sit within his emails for weeks, months, years, and wait until you see him sending invoices to a client, and then you create a follow-up email with an identical invoice but with the banking details changed. You apologize for the incorrect initial email information and direct them to transfer to the new bank account that has been set up by the scammers. This has been done successfully hundreds of thousands of times for amounts ranging from a few $1,000s to tens of millions, even up to the hundreds of millions. It is considered one of the most sophisticated Yahoo Boy scams and only reserved for those who have high-level connections, which is where today's antagonist comes in, or maybe the protagonist depending on where you're from. Introducing Hushpuppi. Originally selling second-hand clothes in Lagos, Nigeria, Ramon Abbas always looked to the stars, or more accurately where the stars might live. From a young age, he didn't want to be on the outside of high society looking in. By all accounts, he was a smart boy. Eventually, he became a smart Yahoo Boy, dealing in low-level scams and working his way up over time. Unlike many others who never make it out of Nigeria, within a couple of years, Hushpuppi went international with a move to Malaysia. He had a vision for what could be and not what was. The move gave him access to better internet infrastructure, a better quality of life, and maybe most importantly, a lesser chance of being caught by the Nigerian police, who were constantly on his tail. Somewhere along the way, Ramon picked up the nickname Hushpuppi, which is exactly what he called his Instagram account when starting to post pictures in a Malaysian apartment in 2012. His taste for the finer things, the expensive clothes, the jewelry, the shoes, the alcohol, and location seemed to increase with each picture released, as too did his fan base, who loved to see the flex and motivational hustler mentality on display. Eventually, Hushpuppi linked up with another big-time Nigerian Instagram flexer named Momfa. Momfa showed him that Malaysia had nothing on Dubai, the flexer's paradise. It didn't take long for Hushpuppi to arrive and start pushing his Instagram following into overdrive. So we know where he was living. What was he doing behind the scenes that allowed for this lifestyle? According to an affidavit from the FBI signed by a district court judge, lots and lots of high-level fraud. They alleged that Hushpuppi was not only a Yahoo Boy making a few $1,000,000 here and there on some scams, but actually the head of one of the largest and most successful multinational cybercrime operations on the planet, responsible for laundering hundreds of millions of dollars, serving as a middleman for business email compromise scams, as well as having connections to foreign nation-state hackers and their illegal activities. Foreign nation-state hackers referring to hacker groups that operate within the government of countries like North Korea, usually on the orders of the government and with specific agendas. One such group is Lazarus, a very notorious organization known for their hacks on the United States, South Korea, and even globally over the last decade, as well as their theft of billions of dollars of cryptocurrency since 2017 and hacks of multiple national banks. So what once was a small operation in Lagos, Nigeria, was now something that would see you in a federal prison for decades. Something that might have been hard to trace had it not been for the fact Hushpuppi was flaunting his life on Instagram for his 2.5 million followers. According to the same FBI affidavit, the agent in charge of the operation uses Hushpuppi's Instagram against him in attaining a warrant. They arrested a Canadian money launderer, and within that phone, they found a contact called Hushpuppi, along with message exchanges detailing crimes. They then made the connection between the phone number associated with that account and the Hushpuppi phone number on his Instagram records, as well as email records across multiple social media accounts, traced his logins to said social media profiles, and that's it. They tied him to the message exchanges that detailed prior wire fraud in association with the money launderer that was arrested. The conversation they uncovered through the phone messages was sometimes slightly coded with Yahoo Boy slang, such as house for bank, and detailing the movement of hundreds of millions of dollars from 2019 onwards. The launderer would essentially go between the North Korean hackers or the big BEC players, and Hushpuppi is the man who would provide bank accounts across the entire world, transferring stolen money and moving it around as needed. A few of the examples that were given was a bank in Malta where they took $13 million, $1 million from an American law firm, and 2 attempted hacks on United Kingdom-based companies for around $100 million each. One of these 2 companies was an English Premier League football team. They are of course just a few that were linked from the texts, but by the time these happened in 2019 and 2020, Hushpuppi had already been living what he called the billionaire Gucci master lifestyle for close to a decade. Looking through his Instagram account, you can see him on private jets, at private parties sitting next to billionaire fashion label owners, professional athletes in his company calling him Big Bro, and the flaunting of massive sums of wealth for many, many years. Despite losing contact with the Canadian money launderer, Hushpuppi didn't really slow down his operation at all. In fact, it seems business carried on completely as usual. It's possible he thought himself safe from extradition, as he was of course living in Dubai at the time. On June 8th, 2020, however, while asleep in his $1,700 per night 5-star hotel penthouse, a Dubai SWAT team was creeping through the hallway with a battering ram. Within minutes, Hushpuppi and many accomplices who were in the middle of a large job had guns in their face, and they assumed it was a robbery. Shortly after, they were all in cuffs, and within hours, Hushpuppi was on a plane flying to the United States and straight into FBI custody. In July of 2021, he agreed to plead guilty to the charge of conspiracy to engage in money laundering, which holds a statutory maximum sentence of 20 years in federal prison. His court date has inexplicably been pushed back repeatedly by his legal defense, with the current date being November of 2022, meaning he will have been in custody for over 2 years since his arrest in Dubai. Now that might be the end of the story if it wasn't for the fact that Hushpuppi's arrest had an unbelievable impact in Nigeria, both in the social media sentiment and the government's crackdown on Yahoo Boys. Or what they were telling people were Yahoo Boys anyway. Tensions were already on the rise and his arrest didn't help matters. Since 1984, a special unit exists in the Nigerian police force called SARS, short for Special Anti-Robbery Squad. This squad has been the subject of much scrutiny, as well as being involved in extreme brutality according to many investigations that alleged the ill treatment of over 82 different people between January 2017 and May of 2020. These cases all occurred on men aged 18 to 25 from low-income backgrounds, the demographic usually associated with none other than Yahoo Boys. SARS were amping up their enforcement, using Yahoo Boys as a pretext to arrest young men without any evidence. In October of 2020, a video surfaced of a SARS officer killing a young Nigerian man entirely unprovoked. The government officials claimed that the video was a fake and arrested the person who recorded this despicable act. So after Hushpuppi's arrest, details surfaced from the US government's investigation pointing at the leader of SARS in Lagos, Abba Kyari, referred to as a super cop, being paid off by Hushpuppi and people like him. This, as well as the constant brutality of the special unit, all of the recent arrests, and of course the video that released, resulted in protests from the citizens. Protests that were ended with a dozen protesters being by security forces. The government have since banned demonstrations in Lagos. SARS was disbanded in October of 2020, and police brutality is still a problem. Hushpuppi's social media account is still up, and on every photo, even going back to the very beginning, you'll find new comments wishing for his return, praying for his freedom, and praising what he did. Free Hushpuppi, miss you legend, you'll be out soonest, I miss this legend of all time. There is no doubt that Ramon Abbas is a criminal. He broke laws across the globe, defrauded people for what could be hundreds of millions of dollars, but to many, he's a hero. For the aspiring Yahoo Boys still stuck in Nigeria, still in abject poverty, still subjected to this brutality, for the ones that haven't made it international yet or never will, he proved that they can do it, and he isn't the first or the last. Many before him have done so, just without the bragging on social media and being caught as a result. Some people, though, laughed at his arrest. His old friend Monfa, who brought him to Dubai in the first place and helped him out, took to a YouTube video in 2021 to mock him, stating Hushpuppi is stubborn, that's why he was arrested, and I can't be arrested because I had dinner with the FBI. Well, he was added to the wanted list by the Nigerian EFCC for alleged fraud and money laundering and hasn't posted to Instagram since, so he is on the run. And that is the story of Hushpuppi, at least for now.